Welcome to the Caregiving Podcast. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie.
And long story short, we have Caregiving. We are two momtrepreneurs who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love. Almost 14 years later, we felt called to create this podcast as a resource for families with caregiving needs. Whether you care for a family member or are looking for advice on professional caregiving, we want this to be a platform to support you.
Each week, we will come to you with encouraging stories of families who have found the right balance for their loved ones, tips for how to care for them and you, and much more. We hope you continue to join us each week as we share in this exciting new journey together.
Hello, Sunshines, and hello, Julie. How the heck are you?
Oh, I am so good, Inga. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Good.
We had a good day today.
Oh, my word, the best.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have a guest speaker,
Oh,
which is
yes,
like
we do.
the best of the best guest speakers.
Yes.
So talk to me. Tell us what we did today.
Well, we somehow found Jolene Brackey.
Yeah.
Yes, this is our very special friend that helps us to learn how to give moments of joy. Mm-hmm. And just even the title of her book is just awesome. Just tells what a special person you are.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we had a 2-hour seminar with her as a guest speaker, and now we brought her back to the office, and we're putting her on a podcast.
Yeah, working me today.
For sure. She might be a little
Yes.
held hostage here. So
Yes.
we'll try to get her out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think what we could do real quickly, just in the spirit of doing things how we always do in structure, which I need in my life.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do our verse, and then we'll go into Jolene Brackey.
Yeah.
So the verse today, this is Luke chapter 6, verse 31. Do to others as you would have them do to you.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Do you know the platinum rule?
What's that?
Because that one's the golden rule.
Yes.
The platinum rule is do unto others as they would wish.
You just ratcheted it up a notch.
I totally did, because it's a whole different concept.
Oh.
It is true, though,
Yes. Yeah, because,
especially when we're talking about Alzheimer's and dementia.
yeah, it's not about really what we want, but it's about what makes them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep. So we're going to remember the platinum rule through the entire thing.
There
Platinum
you
rule it
go.
is. I'm going to actually write it down and put it in my office.
Yeah.
Do
I
unto
love that.
others as they would wish.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we recommend is actually we have the seminar recorded, and it's on our YouTube station, the Caregiving Podcast. And so people should watch that. And what we did is we took some notes throughout your discussion with everybody.
Gotcha.
And I have a few things that I had several aha moments. And what's really funny about that is I've been doing it for years and years and years.
This is what I was thinking.
And then still you learn something new every time, And then
Wow.
here you are also living.
Yeah, I'm
what
learning
you
something
speak
new
of.
every week,
Yeah.
every day, every hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I really consider you to be an expert in Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yes.
And I look at that. We've watched you for years now, and at one point in time, you did a training for some of our staff members, and then we've just had the governor's conference. I think several years ago you did here. But what I love about what you do is you're very real. Like, you are in the moment, the reality of the situation. It's not clinical. It's like, how do we deal with what we have right now?
Yes.
So how did you figure all of that out?
Being in the now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the fact that you've got to be present with them because they can't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. They don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes. So right now, what's happening? And it's not usually the words that they're saying. It's more the nonverbal cues. It's their tone of voice. It's their emotional level. Like, what am I responding to? Because if you try to respond to facts, words, it's all off. But what's spot on is how they feel. Mm-hmm. And so being in the now with how they feel, you can create a general response that usually is quite correct. Because basically it's, what would my friend do? If my friend came to me and said, someone took my purse, I got robbed, which is technically what people with dementia do. They think they've always getting robbed. Then you say, that shouldn't happen. I'm going to call the cops. And so it's not actually happening, but the truth of it is, they believe it is, so I got to respond as if it is.
Right.
Yes.
Otherwise, they're thinking, you're against me too.
Did you
I
take
gotta
it?
get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
You took my stuff. Yeah.
It's funny that you brought that up because I actually wrote down respond to the emotion, not the story.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you walk into a room, you never know what you're going to get, right? You can step your foot in and just like, holy, like, how did this happen? What happened? But if you ask them what happened, they can't respond to that because they don't know or they can't communicate it. Or if you say, what's wrong? You're just setting them up to fail because they can't communicate. But if you come in and go and you just see the emotion of their fear, maybe they're scared, say, you know what? That should not have happened. And I'm going to check on it for you. So when they're afraid, then you're becoming their protector without going into the story, because if you go into the story, it only gets bigger. Or if you come in and they're crying and you have no idea what happened, again, you can't say what's wrong, but you go, I am so sorry that happened. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, so you don't even actually have to know what it is. You just sense, you see that someone is having an emotional response or something.
Yep, to something.
And then you're just there to try to
be on their team. I always say call it be on their team. You're not there to figure it out. You're not there to fix it. You're just there to be on their team and say, I'm sorry. Should not have happened. I'll check on it. And then like with men, you have to have a authority figure, right? Whether that's like, I'm going to call the mechanic, or I'm going to call the banker, or I'm going to call the cops, because you can't give them the feeling like you're going to handle it, because they're like, who are you? You don't have any authority. Silly girl, right? Who is that little girl down there? Yeah. But if you say, you know what, I will call the banker and see what's going on here.
So talk to me about how it goes over if you try to rationalize with someone in a situation.
Don't we all know? Basically, if you try to tell them the absolute truth, like no one took your stuff, it's okay. Because that's really probably the truth of it, because literally they can't find their stuff because they hid their stuff, or someone's holding their stuff to keep it safe, etc. But if you say, you know what, it's okay, nobody took your stuff, they don't like you.
We're like, you probably did.
Yeah, you probably took it.
Well, I have a situation that happened to me, and so I really want your input on this. So a daughter brought her mom in, and mother's taking care of dad with pretty advanced dementia, Alzheimer's. And she was saying that he was delusional and he was having hallucinations. So as I sat there and listened, I knew that, that's what mother needed a lot of, was just somebody to listen to her. But, he was getting very angry at her because why is the UPS man here? Why is the mailman here? And she was like, honey, there's nobody here. And he was like, look, you can't see them?
Yeah.
So anyway, as I'm talking to her, I talked to her about, not deception, but distraction. And can we change the subject? And she actually ended up getting very, very frustrated with me and said, I am a devout Catholic and you're asking me to lie to my husband. How dare you? And I knew at that time she wasn't going to listen. And the daughter was like, Mother, no, listen, we've got to figure out how to distract Dad. Right. And I said, at this point, I think my best advice for you is to go talk to your priest. And that's what I had to tell her, because she did not like that I was suggesting that she lie to her husband. And they'd been married 40, 50 plus years. So I respected that. I understood that. But she was also going to be in a lot of hurt for a long time.
Right. So it's the disease you've got to recognize what's the disease, right? And so when they're having hallucinations, that's the disease. And then I always say to anybody, because it's not uncommon for people to say, you're lying to them. You want me to tell them that their mom's taking a nap and their mom's no longer living. You want me to tell them that their husband's out in the field when their husband's not out in the field. He's no longer living, or he's uptown having a beer, et cetera, whatever. But I say we're not lying. We're living in their truth. And you've got to figure out what this person's truth is. So if the husband says, why is the UPS man here? That's his truth. Whether he's there or not doesn't matter. He made the statement. He wouldn't be saying, why is the UPS man here if he didn't see him? So you've got to live in their truth and go, I don't know, but I'm going to call his boss. Like, he shouldn't be doing that. Or I'm going to go talk to him. And you just step outside. You've got to action, which is in what we just talked about earlier. Action, leaving the room so they think you're handling it. right? You're handling their truth. I'm not really saying this really well yet, but let's do a simpler one. So they say, "Where's my husband? Where's my husband?" And you say, "Your husband's no longer living," because that's the truth. But in their mind, they're living in another time. They're younger. They believe they're married. So in their truth, their husband would be out in the field. Their husband would be at the bar having a beer with Bob. Their husband would be having a meeting, whatever the case may be. Whatever their truth is, that's where you got to go with them. Because even if we correct them, right, we say, he's no longer living. Do they stop asking the question? Do they get better? Do they understand it? Do they change in any way? No. So then this is the identification that this is the disease. It's not this person trying to make us mad, right? This is the disease. And so we have got to live where they are, and where they are is another time, is another place. And so also recognize they're doing the best they can. They're doing the best they can with the memories that they have left. They're not doing this to make us angry. And so it's tricky business, but you are correct. As I said earlier today, if you want to battle them, if you want to try to get them to get it, that this person's no longer alive, or the UPS guy isn't here, or nobody took your stuff, go ahead. I always say when they battle me, I'm like, you know what? Go ahead. Give it your best shot. Give it your best shot.
Is it working?
Is it working? Yeah. And how does it make them feel?
That's what I think about, is how would you feel being told multiple times a day that your husband is dead? Are you reliving that? Like, because you have no idea.
Right. And I'm also going to say, how would you feel if someone reminded you that you're wrong? Yes. Like you're continually reminding them that they're wrong. And I always say, you know what? These people aren't even confused until we show up and correct them. Oh. Like they have their truth, right?
There you go.
But they're not even confused until we go up and, correct them.
So truly, if we just keep saying your husband is dead, that's raw to them every single time.
Yeah. How does it make them feel? If you think about that, your reaction, telling them what you believe to be true, how does it make them feel? If you can answer that question, scared, alone, nobody said anything, you're lying to me, and they have all these emotions. And then I ask the next question, how do they function when they're feeling angry, sad, alone, anxious, frustrated, lied to? How do they function? And I want to challenge y'all, they can't. They can't function. If you actually answer that question, how do they function based on how they feel, they can't function. And when they can't function, who suffers the repercussions? Us.
Yes.
So that's what you meant by a radical acceptance of what is.
Yes. Yep. That's what I meant by that. A radical acceptance of what is, because there's no rhyme or reason around it. Every moment is completely different, and you can't predict, and you can't prepare, and you can't figure it out. And so it's like open hands. It's like, how can you accept them as they are? Because when you get there, I guarantee there'll be less suffering.
To be able to have that radical acceptance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Less suffering for you, less suffering for them, because we're no longer battling.
So to somebody that's extremely logical, or trying to put their faith in front of this, and it's causing a major roadblock.
Totally.
And nobody was at fault at that. That was just her very strong belief. Yep. I understand that. But basically what we're looking at is trying to differentiate the disease versus the person.
Yes.
Because it's not the person. They don't know.
Nope, it's the disease. And when you can say this is the disease and this is the only person who can change is me, because the disease isn't going to change, right? So the only person that's going to change is me, because they can't change. Yeah.
So pick the battle.
Pick the battle. But also, she gets to keep her faith, right? And she gets to continue to do what is honorable for her. But in that stance, in that situation, I encourage her to find someone else to be his caregiver, so she can be the wife, because the wife can be honest like that, right? But someone else needs to be his caregiver, because he's really got a lot of stress, right? The stress that he's feeling based on this information he doesn't understand, right? And someone else won't have that expectation of him. Someone else will roll with him.
Right.
And she's not going to get that either, but I'm going to say he's probably going to do better under someone else being the caregiver so she can become the wife again.
Right.
Oh boy.
Because you want her to be honest within herself if that's her stance.
yes. Wow.
Well, and when you think about when you're upset, like when I'm upset, you're upset, you want to be validated, right?
Totally. I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
You just want someone to say it too. Not
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. I feel like that just diffuses
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
But we had another situation where the son was a very affluent guy here in the valley and very black and white job.
Mm-hmm.
And his mama had dementia. And so whenever I would have to call him and say, oh gosh, this happened, just so he was aware, that we were telling him what was going on in the home, he would say, well, I am going to call her and tell her she is being absolutely nonsensical.
Oh, no.
I didn't even know it was a word. I love that word.
Right?
But I tried to talk to him and say, everything with her is not as black as white as it is with you.
Right.
And he goes, nope, it's black and white, and she's being nonsensical, and I will tell her that. But that was the relationship they had.
Yeah. So there's another deal on that. The relationship they have is if it's always been that way,
Yeah.
it's not going to buck her.
True.
Yeah, it's not going to
She's been
matter. 'Cause
told that her whole
yeah. So it's not going to be something new. And the same with husband and wife. Like I can look at my parents and go, wow, dysfunction, right? But it's something they're both familiar with. So it works on a level. And I don't have to intervene, even though I like, why do you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But essentially to them, it's very common and it's very familiar. And my dad expects my mom to correct him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that's what I always say. It's easier for me to do this than it is for a wife to do this, right? I make it sound easy, but a wife is going to correct them, as we heard today, in the hopes that they'll get better.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want. I want my husband back, correct?
Yes.
And so also recognizing that they've been married for 60 years, and just because I come along and say, hey, let's not fight with them anymore, doesn't really work, doesn't make them, how does it make them feel? Doesn't mean they can go, oh, okay, I get it, and jump on that boat. Because my mom has been doing this over and over and over and over. It's her pattern just as much as it's my dad's pattern. Mm-hmm. And so at some point we have to step back and go, well, they're just going to battle because they always have.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's two ways of looking
it makes sense, in that regard.
But the biggest thing to go back to, as stated in the seminar that we've had, is safety.
Yeah.
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 And I
Yeah.
another thing that struck me was that we were talking about like a wife as the caregiver, and you're not worried about the person that we're taking care of. You're worried about the caregiver, because what you said is we don't want to lose two people to this disease.
Yeah.
Boy, that hit me.
Interesting. Did it?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, that's research. Research shows that the caregiver will pass away before the person with Alzheimer's or end up in the hospital, even if they're my age, right? Because the stress is on the person who's got to think through this, double time, go fast. And like, I don't know what's going to happen today because they're just always on their feet. And so that's what I've seen in my parents, is that my dad this winter got better and my mom got worse, and my mom's always been the strong glue holder of everything. Mm-hmm. And that's just was my commitment to everybody in the family. I'm here for mom. That's who I'm here for, because I know that I know what can happen if she tries to do this all by herself, isolated in the wintertime.
Yeah.
How lucky they are to have you.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody thinks so, but thanks.
Well, I know so.
Well, nobody thinks so. Yeah.
It's really interesting that you, as Inga has said, we consider you to be an expert in this topic.
Yeah.
And here you are living it.
Yeah. And I've always said nobody's an expert, because every relationship, every situation, every person is completely different. And I got to experience that fully, because I'm way better. Like if I don't know the people, I can get through so much so fast just by observing what's happening. But
different ballgame.
Father-daughter relationship, I'm like, this is just a lot of freaking therapy. Isn't it? It's just plucking out all my stuff. Yeah, which is an opportunity in itself. But it's I don't even know how to say it. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal, and I didn't realize, I guess, how brutal it is until you actually go firsthand with someone you've known for your entire existence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also no pity around this either. Like, I like to think about, because you always say, oh, that's so sad, or that's so whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but every situation's an opportunity to evolve and heal and revisit it, because I'm not 12 anymore. I'm 52.
Mm-hmm.
So it's constantly rechecking that I'm not 12 anymore. I'm 52. Mm-hmm. How do I want to do it now? How do I want to have that relationship now? And even if it's not a relationship now, I still get to make a more mature decision. And that holds a lot of power, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that pity thing is interesting because we've done a lot of support groups and been involved with those kinds of things. And everybody is so used to their story that, like, when we hear your story, we're like, oh, I'm so glad I have my stuff, you know, because they think that poor girl or that situation.
Yeah, I guess that is the positive
you
of
know,
it.
and so then, you know, so it's good to reach out and get a village around you and get help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also know that my mom's not going to ask for that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to initiate that. And it's something that it's also, if I say, Mom, do you think we should get a housekeeper? That's something that's adding to her stress.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that. You just get a housekeeper.
Right.
And you just get food delivered to your house. And you just do these things. And you don't ask permission for the caregiver, the people, because you're just adding. I mean, it was amazing to me. I'm like, don't ask mom, don't ask mom, don't ask mom. Because as a kid, I always asked her everything because she's the authority and I want to make sure she thinks so too.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was way too much
For her.
for me to involve her in all this decision making that I knew needed to happen.
So you just said, we have a housekeeper and she's starting on Tuesday.
Yeah. My sister actually found the housekeeper and said she's starting on Thursday. And then, you know, the caregiver, the extra caregiver, we're going to have her 3 hours a week. And then for me, you know, it's just, you just create these things because you don't want to have them to think about it. Should we, shouldn't we, all that stuff. She just doesn't need to be involved in that process.
Oh, I love that. And think about even just as much as being asked what's for dinner tonight or what should we have for dinner. Like, but if you can, because like personally, that's just an added level of stress.
Totally.
Like, oh, crud. Now I have to think this through. Right.
Right.
So if a housekeeper just showed up at my house, oh my,
Well, she knows it's going to happen. But it's their generation.
Yes.
Literally did everything in the house themselves,
Yes.
correct? Mm-hmm. And so I was amazed at breakfast. My mom would say, what would we have for lunch? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't cook. I don't know what this is about, but it's an automatic thought process for her to figure out the meal for the entire day at breakfast. Yeah. And I'm just going, okay, this is who she is. So I'm going to say, you don't have to worry about lunch because I'm going to just take Dad for Chinese. Because you can tell it's something she's always done, but it's not as easy to do it. Mm-hmm. It's more of a stress now than it was when she had 6 kids. Right. Because she's just like, do we have hamburger? I can't remember. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm just going to take Dad for Chinese and then I'll just bring something home for supper or whatever. But I just take that off the plate because it's just funny. It was a daily thing. Let's just put it that way. Mm-hmm. That's the part that was funny to me. Every breakfast, she was figuring out what was for lunch and supper.
Always had to be 2 steps ahead.
2 steps ahead.
Probably 20 steps.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't have the capacity to even go there, and I don't like cooking, so we're not doing it. Yeah. But I zip my lips and I go, okay, let's have that. Whether we did it or not, though, you know what I mean. I just said okay, but whether I did it or not was based on how the day fell out.
Sure, but for her routine, she just needed to hear okay.
Yes, precisely.
So one of the biggest things that you believe is always bringing down the stress level for prevention of the disease, of having someone with the disease, bringing them down so they're not spinning, the caregiver, making sure that there's just less stress, to do that. Yeah. So talk to us about that stress, because that's really huge.
I learned tea. Gotta have tea. Hi, tea. Would you like some tea? So I'm essentially the catalyst to do that, right? You've got to slow down, and you've got to slow down your words, and you've got to be okay with tea, or you've got to be okay. Would you like some popcorn? You know, and you're not rushing through anything, and you're just moving slower. And when I come in the house, I actually don't come in the house. I stay on the peripheral, depending on my mood, you know, because I didn't want my energy to permeate what they had got going on. And so it's like, it's not easy because I'm like, hey, you know, that's my personality.
I was thinking that about myself.
Yeah. No, we add stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's this, I also recognize, am I smiling? Am I, you know, do I look mad? Because if you don't have a smile on your face, my mom worries about me, you know, so I have to like just get a little one right off the corner, you know, that kind of thing. Because if you look at your reflection, that's what they understand. If you can get a mirror and put it in front of your face all the time, I always have to remember that's what they understand. They don't understand the words coming out of my mouth, but they understand my face. And if my face looks sad or stressed or can't do it, then they feel that. And then I'm not helping.
My husband always says to me, "Are you mad?" And I'm like, "No, why? What? We'll tell that to your face."
Totally. You should write that one down.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm like,
yeah, that's brilliant.
Do I look? Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not mad.
I know. I always say if people actually had a mirror and they saw how they look, they wouldn't be doing it. They wouldn't be having that face right now because that's not pretty.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm guilty of like always walking around.
Yeah, but by the time you get home, you're like, I don't want to be nice. I've been nice long enough, right?
So that's when the mad face comes out.
Yeah, are you mad?
No, why would you think so?
I have been nice long enough. I'm over it. I don't want to kiss another flipping forehead.
Oh. Wow. Well, that's a lot of my ahas was just those things that I just brought up to you.
Nice.
That I wanted.
Yeah, because you've been doing this forever. I just keep thinking, holy, I wouldn't have anticipated ahas.
Oh, lots of ahas, and I love that. Another situation that we had just today was actually a new client of ours was able to make it.
Yeah.
And finding out she was able to open up a little bit, and I think that was so healthy.
Yeah, for sure.
So healthy for her. It also helped us to know what she's going through in that house because you don't know.
No.
I thought it was really interesting you talking about having a safe place in the house and having a safe place outside of the house. I worry, and you hear this a lot with women taking care of their husbands, and then they have this escalation, and I just worry that someone is physically going to get hurt.
They will. Yeah, they will. And no one's at fault ultimately because, like I said, the person's in the Alzheimer's, they're in the dementia, and if they were cognitively well, they'd be able to comprehend what they're actually doing. And lucky for me, like my mom had a friend whose husband had Alzheimer's and tried to strangle her, right? And so my mom continually keeps that in mind, you know, like if it gets to that point, you know, we're not. But she has an outside experience, not her own, to define the line of not okay. Because I think as a caregiver, that line gets really, really slippery if all you want to do is keep them home. Yeah, like you think it's wrong that someone else takes care of them. If you've been brought up in that mentality that it's wrong to move them into a nursing home, I promised I never would. All of those things that we promised that we can't keep. And they will do everything to the expensive self.
I actually, just because of what we have done for so many years, I've actually told my children, I said two things.
Yeah.
I said two things. Number one, if something happens to me and I die young, that's fantastic. I've had a hell of a ride. It's been wonderful. I've enjoyed and loved every day. Yeah. And then number two, if for whatever reason I lose my mind, please put me somewhere that they know how to take care of me. Do not put me in your home. Yep. I said, the bottom line is this. If I want to be mean to you right now, I'll do but if it's because of the disease and I'm being mean to you, do not tolerate it. I mean, don't tolerate it now, but it was a bad joke. But truly, do not allow me to be unkind to you when it's the disease.
Yeah.
I don't want you to do that and have no guilt.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
But I've given them that permission.
Yeah. And I think everybody should do that. They should literally tell their kids, please don't take care of me. Please don't move me into your house because you have your life. I've had my life and I will be okay. But this is not your responsibility. And then I always say, my best friend over here is going to do it because I love her and she knows me better than you guys.
Yeah. Inga and I actually had a pinky promise one time. About, we did a tour of some of the memory care units, and there was one that we went to, and the owner of the place literally was taking us on a tour, and one of the little ladies was in her little bed and she was kind of curled up, and I'll be danged if Pat didn't just get right in there and just cuddle right up with her. And I was like, oh, yeah,
we can go here.
Yeah. If we can have that, because there are people out there with that big heart.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I felt it was so critically important for my kids to understand
The permission.
And the guilt.
Yeah.
Some of the people that were at the seminar today, that guilt is how big? How big?
The person may not even be living that they feel guilty over, but they're still carrying the guilt. Yep. And again, I think we give them permission that you did the best that you could with the information that you had at that moment.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah, because I don't have an answer for guilt per se, but if we can prevent it by giving them permission not to take care of the person, by giving them permission, no, I'm taking his keys. You don't have to take his keys. I'm taking his keys. If you do the hard stuff, right? If you do the hard stuff for the person, then they're mad at me and they're not mad at their spouse or they're not mad at their daughter. And that's where you two come into play. And that's where these kind of businesses come into play, because it's a neutral party doing the hard stuff so they can maintain their relationship with their daughter as a daughter.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about a lot with people, is trying to preserve those relationships.
Yes.
Those boundaries.
Yeah, because
you're really good with boundaries.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we have 30 seconds to wrap it up.
So, can you tell us, you've got a couple of books out.
Yes.
And tell us your website. Tell us all of that. So we've got to share that.
Okay. So Creating Moments of Joy is the book that I wrote. My mind's in the book, so I kept telling to people today, you don't have to remember this stuff. Just the chapter will open for you.
Yes.
It's all written down. And then the other one is Enhanced Moments. It's on how to visit, because people stop visiting because they don't know how. Yeah. And it's super simple, super short. But I think it's the community, to continue to have a community is imperative in order to maintain health, because isolation is what makes us go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So those are the two things. Enhancedmoments.com is my website, and you can order as many books as you want to. That's the place to order, probably your best deal on the masses. Otherwise, you can go to Amazon or bookstores or libraries and get my book. But yeah, people keep saying, do another one. I'm like, no, I'm tired. I just want to play a little bit. So that's, if anybody asked me that right now, I know I could, but there's too much living in the now to do for myself. And I, as other caregivers, I would encourage you to say, I'm important. I'm important too. I'm important in this process too. I'm important in this process too. I'm important too in this process. I deserve to be cozy. I deserve to have my own bed, and I deserve good food. And henceforth, I'm going to do these things because I'm important too. And it's not easy.
I love that. I love that so much.
There's a lot of expectations on you because of your knowledge.
Totally.
Yeah, and
totally.
You have to say,
expectations of me on me.
Yeah.
Expectations of me on me.
Oh, my word. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should know how to do this. I don't know I don't know how to do this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a surrender, and a surrender can give you a bit of peace too, because you're like, no, I really don't know how to do this right now.
When the time is right, you're going to get back in that saddle, and you're going to write another blockbuster, and I'll be the first one to buy it.
Yeah, I try not to project in the future, because I might be somewhere no one can find me.
Oh, well, I found you.
I know, but that's
How
unusual.
did that happen?
I have no idea.
You caught her at a weak moment.
You totally did.
She checked her email one time
I
for
did,
the year.
one
and
time.
She's like, there was Julie.
Dang it.
It totally went down like that. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are emails I don't even see, and I go back and I'm like, oh man, I didn't do that one. I didn't respond to that one. Oops. So it's weird on what actually I get to see and what I don't get to see, but you were seen. And so here we are.
We are so thrilled. So thrilled. So, Inga,
Let's wrap it up with a grandma saying or some piece of wisdom, something that you can share.
Piece of wisdom. So my mom has always said 2 things, and it's helped me tremendously. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? And she will actually, in my life, make me play out that actual worst. And then you realize that that's probably not going to happen, and you probably can handle the rest of it.
Oh, that's solid.
That is solid.
That's very solid.
Yep. And then, yeah, she's great when it comes to, she is so steady, but she's lived trauma. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's weird. I'm like, I'm reacting and she's just, I'm like, their generation or my mom, I can't figure out if it's a whole or just my mom, but she's got this, oh, okay. I'm like, I'd be freaking out right now. But she just doesn't.
Wow.
She doesn't, because I think they've been taught. But then the other one she always says is live and learn, mostly learn. So the concept of we will make mistakes. It's inevitable. So learn, live and learn, but you're going to mostly learn. So the forgiveness piece of it.
oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are good.
They are
so
good. Solid.
Yeah.
I'll take solid.
Oh, wow.
Oh, goodness. Well, listeners, if you have a verse that you'd like to share with us or any uplifting stories, or if you have not subscribed yet, please go and do that. You can do it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can watch all of this on YouTube. Leave us a review. We only accept the positive ones. And we are the #1 rated senior podcast.
According to our mothers.
Yes, according to our mothers. So we're sticking with
Fabulous.
that. And we do have a care and share group on Facebook. So if
Yeah.
people want to ask questions or get involved in that community, we'd love to hear from you. Okay. Peace out, Girl Scout.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
so
you
welcome.
so much. That's
My pleasure.
been a beautiful day.
It has been.
Yeah.
In and out.
Yes, yes. Very good. Have a super day.
Thanks.